Losing teeth is scary, whether it's your first baby tooth or your planned wisdom teeth extraction, and especially if it's an adult tooth that accidentally got a root canal, long horrible story for another time, that whoops was not done properly, aka nerves, very much still there and very much still alive, but it costs too much to redo, and what if it's fractured anyway? Thanks, Dr. Evil. Pull the sucker. I've had a lot of dental trauma and have had some visits from the tooth demon again very recently. I cope by going online. Yeah, that's not the healthiest thing. And what I have learned from my years of late night panic dental Google searches is this: teeth are creepy. Like, I know babies are born with all of their teeth embedded in their skull and jaw already, but look at this creepy. Enter in our beloved benevolent tooth fairy. They'll ease the pain of these stored teeth erupting through your head and into their proper gum slots by giving you money or treats, because nothing soothes this terrible pain in transition into adulthood like the promise of sweet, sweet capital. Welcome to the real world, kid. Just leave your discarded body part under the pillow and profit. So how did we get here, and just how is Disney involved? I mean, because if they had actually created the Tooth Fairy, it would be under heavy copyright and probably sealed away in a vault somewhere far, far away, released once every 25 years, remastered. Okay, not anymore with Disney Plus and the vault being wide open, and of course they made this little live-action gem too. But I'm jumping ahead. Let's drill down into the past to get some backstory. The Tooth Fairy is a very new addition to the mythical lineup of beings, and it was very much connected to the United States and maybe Canada specifically. Now it's probably all over. If you don't know this custom in particular, when a child loses a deciduous or baby or milk tooth, they place it under their pillow at night, and by morning, the Tooth Fairy will have snuck in, quiet as a mouse, into the house and exchanged the tooth for money or another treat. The Chicago Daily Tribune mentions them as early as 1908 in its Household Hints section. Tooth Fairy. Many a refractory child will allow a loose tooth to be removed if he knows about the Tooth Fairy. If he takes his little tooth and puts it under his pillow when he goes to bed, the Tooth Fairy will come in the night and take it away, and in its place will leave some little gift. It's a nice plan for mothers to visit the 5-cent counter and lay in a supply of articles to be used on such occasions. Today, the price of teeth has gone up, and not just mothers can procure gifts in cash. Another reference to this Tooth Fairy was in a 1927 play for children called, The Tooth Fairy. Obviously, this 1908 article and 1927 play predate Disney, but they do not predate the myriad of tooth loss customs and practices that have been in place all over the world ever since humans started losing teeth. Which, was probably since there were humans? The Tooth Fairy is most likely based on these much older and more established traditions, many of which center around mice and rats and other rodents. Why rodents? The theory being their teeth are straight, sharp, strong, and last for a lifetime, so why wouldn't you want your pearly whites to be the same way? In 1697, Madame d'Aulnay penned La Bonne Petite Souris, or The Good Little Mouse, where a little mouse, after transforming into a fairy, hides under a pillow and knocks out all of an evil king's teeth, defeating him and thereby linking fairies and mice to teeth. Spain also has a tooth mouse story, El Raton Pérez, by Luis Coloma in 1894. It's not a new thing, trading teeth for coin. In the Middle Ages, warriors thought children's teeth on a necklace good luck in battle, and paid for the teeth with a tooth fee, or leaving out teeth as offerings to the rodents in exchange for their blessing of the coveted teeth. A bit of sympathetic magic, if you will. So we've got little fairy mice, rats, white fairy mice and rats, little angels, and even little souls. In some places, a tooth loss from the bottom jaw is thrown up into or over the roof, and a tooth loss from the upper is put under the floorboards. Again, the wish is that the new teeth grow in straight and strong. Oh, and if you don't want a witch to control your whole being via your baby teeth, you better burn, bury, or swallow those chompers. Now back to how Disney made the Tooth Fairy as we know it today. Way back in the 1970s, a radio DJ made reference to the Tooth Fairy on air, and the American Dental Association was deluged with calls inquiring after it. They had no idea what to tell these poor callers. Enter in Dr. Rosemary Wells, then teaching at Northwestern University's dental school and thereafter the official Tooth Fairy consultant. I know, right? She even had a Tooth Fairy museum. Anyway, there was barely any information on this fairy, so she pulled together what she could and hypothesized that the Tooth Fairy was a crossover between the popular mouse and the traditional good fairy. She ran studies and found in a 1984 survey that 74% of the participants believed the Tooth Fairy to be female, 12% believed them to be neither male nor female, 8% thought they could be either male or female. Others believed it could be a rabbit, mouse, pixie, or even dragon. The best part about this Tooth Fairy, they have as many faces, styles, and variations as there are people to imagine them. But back to that 74% who thought the tooth fairy female. Where does that come from? Let's take a look at pop culture back when the tooth fairy was really starting to gain traction and right before Dr. Wells took her survey. Very specific Disney films were released, namely Cinderella, Peter Pan, and Sleeping Beauty. All feature fairy godmother types who were there to guide a child through an ordeal, or rite of passage like losing teeth, offering support and kindness and wishes for the trials ahead. Earlier too, we had Pinocchio's fairy godmother. They're all presented as female and rather maternal as well. Sprinkle in a little bit of pixie dust to make her small enough to fit in the tiniest of cracks in the house, not unlike the historic mouse, and voila! A set of visuals, ripe for alteration, that young people could easily recall upon first hearing about this tooth fairy. So essentially, what Disney did was give many cultural images and touchstones to a concept some were already familiar with. Decades before Dr. Wells' study and before the crazy mass calls to the ADA, there were probably fewer people who knew of this fairy, but those people probably used imagery of the very old and very classic Good Fairy, and maybe the Wizard of Oz, to subconsciously inform their tooth fairy visuals. But at the time of her 1984 study, this Disney was the popular cultural landscape. Of course, the Good Fairy is by no means a Disney concept, but Disney was a powerhouse. The movies and characters were so entrenched in culture that children, upon hearing of this tooth fairy, already had visual experiences with such a thing. Disney gave a face to a concept and made that concept more popular because of it. Similar to how Coca-Cola's marketing made the public image of Santa Claus by mixing pagan and Christian lores, or how Cadbury made the Easter Bunny with its advertising campaigns. The concepts were around, they just gave a face to masses and masses of people, making the thing recognizable and more adopted. Nowadays, the tooth fairy appears in all different manner of dental-related and non-dental-related product advertisements, announcements, and movies, and has changed with the times. And because it's America, this innocent rite of passage exchange for stronger teeth kind of became baby's first lesson in material value. And then, of course, once it got popular enough, business enterprises got involved in the form of tooth containers. Because wrapping the baby teeth in tissue or a plastic baggie was no longer good enough, you need a mass-produced tooth pouch or plastic molar-shaped locking pendant to maximize profits, I guess. Okay, some of these are kind of cute. Visa, yes, the credit card company, actually did a survey on how much a tooth is worth by surveying their customers in 2013. Apparently, the going rate is like $3.70 USD per tooth, depending on how the economy is doing, individuals' financial situations, etc. Which I don't know how I feel about. It feels like too much, but then inflation, and then at the same time, it feels like going into a GameStop and exchanging a new game that you paid $60 for 30-cent store credit. But if I could fall asleep with my dental bill under my pillow and get reimbursed for my adult dental tooth extractions, I'd be ever so grateful. Hey now, but what are some of your thoughts? What are some customs that you have around losing teeth? If you have or have had a tooth fairy, what are they like? Like beyond the obvious spoiler answer, I'm so curious about that dragon tooth fairy myself. Let me know in the comments below. Hey friends and fiends, thank you for being here and for watching this short little hop into some tooth lore. I'll have another delicious animation ready for you here soon, so brush, floss, and do stay tuned. Goodbye!